What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports, not the NBA Hardwood Show, the morning show, but we're talking NBA, so I'm excited to talk NBA today. And we got some different people here that I have not had on with me. We got AP, we got the man, but I would bring in AP first, but I got to bring in the man because he shipped $1 million, and that's why he's here hanging out with us to talk some hoops. We're going to talk about his winning lineup, get a breakdown from him, and just have a good time talking basketball, what we've seen so far, what we haven't seen. And we'll talk about each game today and break down the slate a little bit. You'll be getting that breakdown from JSU and Big T on the Up to Lock show too, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. But let's go over to the man, the $1 million man. How is it going, my man?
It's going good, man. I'm still it's still kind of unreal, but me and the wife and the new baby are happy and still grinding it out, and it feels great.
Yeah, awesome. We'll obviously break down your lineup and talk about that. AP says he got some stories to tell us too, but let's bring in AP. AP, how are the playoffs going for you? And excited to be here.
Yeah, playoffs are going really well. It's been a ton of fun. I think the content's been good. Big T and JSU, shout out to those two guys. They've been very spot on many different takes so far in this series. I think they do a very good job at breaking that down. And that's a premium thing only for us. So make sure if you're a member that you're tuning into that show, you can pick up some cool stuff there. And then, the man, the humble man also, because this guy, he won $1 million, which is just insane a couple weeks ago. But didn't it all start like 2 Christmases ago, 200K, multiple 100K hits after that, then now a 100K hit back in January too?
It was March. It was Bojan night, the Bogdanovich night.
Okay. Yeah. So,
but no, man, it's like 2 Christmases ago. I think it's like every holiday. I feel like I ship something. Like last 2 years ago's Christmas, New Year's Eve. It's been a crazy run, man.
No, that's awesome.
Pretty nice run for you. You got Mother's Day coming up, Father's Day. Use all those holidays you can, right? Groundhog's Day. Anytime there's an excuse for a holiday, the man is going to say it's one. That way he can ship. But it's been absolutely awesome seeing you crush, and you still had some nice wins even after that. I think you had a showdown win for like 10K. That was pretty sweet the other day. So, obviously you've been crushing it over here. You're in the Discord chat. Here's a question for you, the man. Let me ask you this. We always have all of us, we talk about the Discord and how great it is and all this stuff. How about you? Can you tell the people why Discord's awesome? I feel like you enjoy being in the Discord chat. We were just talking with Bogard, right? Going back and forth, just debating sports. What's some of your opinions on the Discord chat, man?
Yeah. Listen, you got a bunch of people in there that have good sports minds, good DFS minds. And sometimes, you get a relationship with a couple of the guys in there and they bounce ideas off of you and you kind of go with it. Sometimes that's just what makes you ship. Sometimes is somebody mentions a player that you wouldn't be thinking about, either whether it be a stat, whatever it is, and you just go with that player and he helps you ship.
Yep, definitely good. And it helps just have a conversation that maybe you think of something that you didn't even expect. It just kind of helps generate conversation. It's iron sharpening iron. So it's definitely awesome. Let's look at your $1 million lineup though. I want to get a breakdown from you. And just to give a little backstory on how I believe this is how you got there. Maybe I'm wrong. You were definitely on, I had a similar core that day as well. I didn't have a core up, but I remember I opened up the site. I had a good lean on what I was going to play. I felt good about going these OKC guys. The projections were not popping them out as much. They were just, I think this was the first time that these guys were really ruled as the starters. Maybe is that correct, the man, or was it the second day that they were starters?
I think it was that whole week. It was like the OKC slide where they just started just tanking and just started playing literally 6-man. I think it was the night before. I can't remember.
Yeah, but either way, I don't think projections had caught up completely this situation.
No.
So I think that was one key. And I remember, like I said, I remember pulling up Big T's core and I remember looking at it and going, oh, he's got the same exact setup, right? He had Simpson in there. He had Kalazakis, I think his name is, I can't say it right. Trey Jones, who was one of the highest owned guys. And then an Embiid Jokic. I had literally identical build as you did. And I even had Horde. I think my only difference I had off of your team was I think I had Will Barton instead of Aaron Gordon, and I didn't want Will Barton, I'll admit. It was one of those things, I just fell on him, and it was because of positions and whoever my other guy had in, and some news hit where I had to swap off of something. So This team was an awesome team that you built. Some people would look at the team and be like, how'd this guy play Aaron Gordon and Jokic together, right? Like, it just doesn't seem like it correlates or makes any sense, but it's a nice little game stack. I thought you did a great job with it. And I think the other key you did, part of this team, is everyone was playing Chris Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were on him, and you went with Johnson, which I think was massive leverage in your favor. Tell the people a little bit about this lineup, though, and what you kind of.
Yeah, so like even AP, I was actually talking to AP later that night.
Yeah, you got to bring it up. Oh man, he sent me the DM, and it was Keon. I got it pulled up right here. Keon or Dunn. I said I'm on Dunn. I'm so glad he didn't go that route.
So like I just looked at like peripherals for Dunn, and like he just doesn't chuck at all. I just didn't see it, and I was like, Keon, I think he could start chucking. If he has it fallen, then it could be a good night. And that was a little leverage on the Dunn play. And then as far as the Gordon goes, I definitely, it was between him. It was Dunn, Keldon, and Pat Williams, or Keon, Horde, and Aaron Gordon. And obviously I knew Dunn was going to be some chalk. I think Keldon was going to be a little bit of chalk. So I just went a different route, and Aaron Gordon was playing really good. He was playing really good at the time. So I just rolled with it.
Yeah. Listen, I thought it was a good call by you to go with Johnson. Obviously it's hard to stomach, right? It's hard to sit there and do that. What was the pay-in to get in this tournament again?
That was a 3K entry.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things, like, I don't know if you had a ticket into it or if you bought in. I have no idea. I don't know how many entries you had, but like sometimes like people who get tickets, or if like, their first time playing in these, they get a little scared, or they just can't like pull the trigger on like a 2% guy like that. That can absolutely bury you too. Because if Chris Dunn goes off, maybe Johnson has a really bad game. Of course, both can do well, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard to pull the trigger on that. I think that's something that takes like time and experience playing. I guess my question I'm asking you is like, how are you able to pull that trigger on that? Right? Like, how many entries did you have in the contest as well? Like, cause I think it's tough. It's a tough thing for people to do, even if they're like, let's say you play like the $5 GBP a lot, and then you have like a ticket into the $100 or the $200. I still think people have trouble clicking on these 2% guys. And that is what's going to be the difference maker to get you to the top a lot of the time.
Yeah. I would say over the 5-6 years of DFS I've been playing is you got to take those risks at times. And even if you get burnt on them, you got to keep going back to it, because it's going to pay off. Obviously you win $1 million. So you just, even though those plays break you from time to time, they're going to pay off a lot more in the long run when you can stomach, a 2% guy that doesn't produce, but later down the road, he nukes and you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think takes time to be able to figure out. AP, obviously we're talking with the man a little bit about it. So what's some of your thoughts here on his team? And maybe you remember from talk with him that day, like how to get to Aaron Gordon, or like, what are some things that you see here, AP?
Yeah, the Aaron Gordon play there was just huge. He wasn't on my radar at all. And it's just, thinking back to it, sometimes like when we're doing breakdowns every single day, you can kind of get stuck in like kind of the mud a little bit with some of these takes. Like Aaron Gordon's been so bad for a while, but I think the man picked up on something. The Nuggets were in a stretch where they needed him to be more aggressive. And, I was talking to Big T about it too, and they were going to him more. And I think you picked up on that before everyone else did. And the other thing about Gordon is that price tag. I think he had an elevated price tag over 6K there. No one's going to pay that for him. And it's not like he broke the slate or anything. Yeah, he's got a fire, next to his name. And I know everyone likes to see that. But it came down to positions. That forward spot where all the value, the good plays were at the guard positions. That ended up being the difference maker. And it's something that you talk about quite often, Mangone. And so all it takes in tournaments sometimes is get different in one or two places. You can eat chalk, especially in NBA. I think MLB and other sports are a little bit different, but NBA is one of those sports where you can eat a lot of chalk, and all it takes is one or two plays to get it done. And the man showed it right here with this lineup. Beautiful lineup. I'm glad he didn't play Chris Dunn. That would have been a disaster. I would have felt bad. But yeah, congrats, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I will say one more thing is always just go with your gut. Go with your gut.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we get the question often in Discord, like, the other day. So how do I use all the information? digest it, read it, and then add your own spin to it. Like that's like we are, I think, one of the most transparent companies out there. We're telling you what plays we like. Doesn't mean you have to like them. We're just showing you what we like, and we all play, and we play at high levels. So use that as information. I think it's valuable for people to use. You know, if you want to fade it, you can fade it. You know, I put my fades on the PGA playbook. Those are my fades. Play them if you want. I had Jordan Spieth as a fade this week. He won. You know, like, so it is what it is. Take in all the information and add your spin to it and trust your gut. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah. And like, here's like a quick example of like how sometimes like you can make fades where it's like, I don't think they're a bad play, but I got to fade someone, right? Like maybe for instance, like your team right here, the man, it's got 3 OKC guys. And let's say when a lot of optos have like 3 OKC guys on it, sometimes my way to be different is like, I'm going to go 2 or I'm going to go 4, just the other way. And I might just, maybe my main team will just, maybe I decide to fade one of them, right? People will be like, well, why are you fading like, why are you fading whatever his name, Zakis or whatever his name is? And my reasoning isn't that he's a bad play. It could be, well, because I like another spend up small forward and I think it gets me different. And it's just a small reason to do it. It's not that I think he's a bad play. It's about the construction of the lineup. And I think that's really key. And one thing that was great was what you built. Another thing that I do sometimes that I think helps me. And again, I'm not you. I'm not the man. I'm not AP. I'm not Big T. I think understanding how you think and how you play DFS is helpful in developing your own process. Sometimes it's easier for me to find the lower owned guys first because I'm more of a cash player. At least I started out. I'm really good at identifying value. I just know I'm good at that. So I like to try and identify the lower owned guys first and then build my lineup from there around that. That way I don't play like all these 20% guys. I've caught myself do that before. So that's something that I've noticed helps me. Now, maybe you're someone that you're too much of a galaxy brainer, right? You just like play like all these 5% guys. Well, then maybe what you should do is you should put a bunch of those guys in and then use an optimizer like SaberSim and then run the cash model. And that way it gives you a really nice full lineup. I think that's a really good way to kind of think through the process and figure out how you can win, right? We're not all the same people. I couldn't do it like Big T. Like I remember Big T told the story. He was at like a Philadelphia Phillies game or something, I think for like a final. And he was literally in the parking lot building NASCAR teams while running. Like there's no way I would ever do that. I could never like run with a computer and build NASCAR teams. Like, and Big T did it and he had a good day.
That game was wild. The man, do you remember, like, I don't know if you were sitting right by us, but like early on, we were just going to sit down. We were out in right
field-ish, I think, right?
Right field. My wife almost got smoked by a fly ball. Like she had no clue it was coming. And you hear the bat pop and the ball come. I'm like looking up. I'm like, oh, it's headed our direction. I'm like, oh, it's getting closer. And me and this guy, behind me stand up and we don't have mitts or anything. Like, and the guy behind me bare hands it. It was crazy. She would have gotten absolutely smoked though. It would not have been good.
No, but that T thing was pretty funny because we were sitting by him and I remember seeing his laptop and he didn't have service and he just started walking around.
Yeah, he shipped NASCAR on that slate too.
Yeah, he said he went to the parking lot and just ran, and like he was just running to find service. Like imagine Big T running. I mean, you don't see that often. That's like a sight to see, unless it's on the basketball court. And then two, like he said, he was just running the opposite way. Like he's just running, and Amber's trying to chase him down, and I could never build lineups like that.
She was helping him. Amber's awesome. Amber is like the MVP. Like. My wife would never be doing that. She'd be like, leave your fucking laptop at home. Like you don't need that.
Oh man.
Hilarious stuff.
I think that's one really big thing. Like sometimes I see people in the Discord chat, and I'm not saying this to get on anyone. I'm just trying to say, I think this will help people, right? Who are listening to the show. Sometimes people are like, how can I like win? Like, what do I need to do? I think you have to figure out what's best for you. We have the content for you. We have the cores, we have the playbook, but try and figure out what could be the best process. Maybe like, what do you like? Maybe ask us like, what do you use in your process, right? Like one thing I use a lot is projections. I like to look at them because it tells you what most of the field is doing. I truly believe that is going to be the biggest thing. And then from there, I kind of work and look at some other stuff. So I think developing your own process is really key. Man, let me ask you this because we got you on here. Like, what's something that you can think of like recently, maybe that like has been important in your process that you've used? Like I said, for me, it's definitely been looking at projections. Like the other day, Brandon Ingram, one of the chalkier plays on the slate. I did not like him. I played Jonas Valanciunas instead. Ingram didn't have as great of a game. Valanciunas leveraged him big time. And it was a big reason why I got more towards the top of the leaderboard. I mean, if Jay Crowder doesn't get 5 DK points, I probably finish easily in the top 10 of some contests. So what are some things that you do that you think are valuable that you've learned recently that may have helped you win the million?
I mean, I think for NBA, I didn't do it as much last year, and this year I've gotten a lot better at it, and it probably isn't applicable now that the season is coming to an end, but it's late swap. Like the new, like that is huge news as far as either waiting for news to come out or hoping it doesn't come out. I think that's big is late swap. That's really been a key part of my success is using that late swap stuff to get an edge on a lot of the fields. And then I'm not a big projection guy. I'm more of an ownership guy. I think, and I'm more of a high dollar guy. So it's kind of hard as far as like those large field entries. Like I 150, I'm toast, man. I'm toast. I cannot run with the dogs at 150.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not the biggest 150 guy, but I'm working on it. It's definitely something I'm trying to improve upon, and I'm getting a little better at. And that's something, hey, maybe you get bored of playing what you're playing and shipping all the money to the man, and then you decide to go over and play that a little bit. AP, I know you've been playing more 150. You also play, main lineups as well. What's some things in your process that you can kind of share that you've like learned, along the way this year that is kind of new that you can tell the people about?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you play 150 or multi-entry, like to any extent, you got to have a long-term mindset because it's a grind. Like, I mean, take, for example, the $20 100K up top. If you went through and if you pulled all the results from all the players, all the 150 guys, unless you're like winning, like you're going to have a lot of losing nights, a ton of losing nights. So it's all about those hits throughout the season, 1 or 2 big hits, and then managing that bankroll. So I think some people do that very good. I think others, maybe not so good. I'm really torn. Like if I want to keep going that route, or because I've always been a 3 to 5 player, and I look at JSU as kind of one of the better guys at that in the industry. Just 3 to 5. Mangone, I know you're right there too, building 3 to 5 as well. And I think that just might be my style that I go with. But I will say kind of finance background and stuff like, and then using Sabre, that technology that we have now, it's a ton of fun running, 150. And I don't always run like 150. Big T always makes fun of me because sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 65. I think last night I ran 75. And my reasoning behind that is it all comes down to like my overall exposures. If I'm not running 150 and if I'm running 50, I'm getting overweight on like 3 guys. I'm talking like 70% for 3 guys taking huge stands. And I think you can get away with not maxing out those contests. And part of that's just managing bankroll too. Like if you're running 150 and you're getting scooped every night, it starts to add up pretty quick. So changing it up is something that I've done. But I go back and forth. Some nights it's 3, some nights it's 50, some nights it's 125. I mean, it just kind of depends. Also, doing content and up to lock stuff kind of dictates that as well for me, just because I know if we're doing a lot more up to lock, it's going to be difficult to manage some of those lineups. So especially with the Discord and everything. But yeah, one thing I will say, I know we're going to focus on NBA on this show, but like fading the chalk in, especially with hitters in baseball, I think is just huge. It's something we got to do. Last night, perfect example. Really? So the optimal was, I ran it a few times and I hadn't even looked at anything. I looked at Uncle T's playbook. It was awesome. Shout out to Uncle T. And I looked at the other content that we had and listened to the show. It was Philly and Coors and those 2 pitchers. And that was hitting everything. And then I like the comments that the Up to Lock show, just, fading it. And in baseball, I'd love to fade the chalk hitting spots. So I went on to Sabre and you can just adjust the team totals and that adjusts the projections. I adjusted the team totals down to like 3 for each side, which almost ended up being like the absolute like correct score of that game. And then I bumped up Dodgers. I bumped up, I forget the other spots. And, it was a good night in the baseball streets just by fading some of that chalk. So, I think the ownership and kind of what you're doing, the man, with looking at that and then adding in the projections is definitely the right way in your process.
I agree with everything you say there. And I agree with that in baseball. And like, AP, I'm with you. Like, listen, I think sometimes people think when they MME, they have to play 150 lineups, right? Like they have to. I think my recommendation is if you are going to play 150, like do it at the lowest level that you can. If you can't do it at that lower level, maybe do it in like the $4 and 20 max, right? That's not a bad way to do it to hone in on your process. Or it's okay to do like 10 lineups or like 20. It's okay to do that to get better at it. You don't have to just sit there and crank out 150 every single time. If you're not comfortable with it and you're just trying to get better, let's say you're newer to using an optimizer, practice during the day before you kind of get started, maybe on your lunch break, sit here and just, act like the slate is going to lock, act like it's an hour before lock and you're kind of prepping it up and getting it together. Yes, it might not be like the same exact teams because there might be like guys that change later on, but it's a good way to practice and get better at it. I think that's important to do, especially when using an optimizer, and you will learn something from doing that. The man, you got any final thoughts here on your winning lineup, or do you want to like dive in and kind of talk about some NBA stuff?
No, I'm just ready to start crushing some MLB now. Well, now that we're past NBA playoff time, that showdown. I don't know that showdown lineup last night. I kind of hit a lucky one, but you know what? We're gonna keep on grinding it out and see what happens.
Are you gonna get back to that live final?
I've been trying for it.
Yeah, I need to try it too this time. I'm the worst at like trying for those live finals. So I'm too much of a pussy when it comes to that. Those things can add up too.
I like to wait till the end when tons of people already are in there and not attempting it. Yeah. That's normally like it takes some restraint to do it, but I think it's the smart move to do. It'll overlay at times. So that's typically what I like to do. But yeah, overall, hopefully you guys can get to that. I'm sure next year NBA will be great, but we still got playoffs to grind out, which looking for some nice hits to start off the playoffs. I already had a good start and I want to keep it rolling. So let's talk about some NBA now. And before we dive into the games, let's talk about what we've seen so far. I don't know if you guys got any hot takes. AP, I know you got a little bit of a hot take in the West, so let's go to you. What are some of your takes?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not like a Warriors guy at all. Like, I'm really not. Like, one of my good buddies just loves them and just, man, constantly strokes to them. And it's like, always annoys me. And I hate the fans. They're like in the games. Like last night, you get the Warriors chant. It's just like, it's so annoying. And it just pisses you off. But I put that stuff aside. I look at this team. They're tough. They're tough to defend. They're like, you have to switch. And like the Nuggets are just toast right now, which pains me to say because I like the Nuggets a lot. There's no way that they're going to have any chance in this series. I think unless, one of these Warriors guys get hurt. Now a team like the Suns, yeah, I think they could defend them a little bit better, but just seeing what Draymond adds to this team and how they're like what they're doing to Jokic alone. I mean, man, I think they take the Suns in a series. I think the experience, like, I think it's been like a rope-a-dope all season. Like, I think they just sucked us in and, made us not believe in them late, in the season. And then now Curry coming off the bench, looking as good as he is. I mean, they're not even playing their guys 30 minutes yet. The rotations have been very friendly. They're all going to be healthy. And when they get into some of these tougher series, they're going to be fresh, in my opinion. So I give them the edge right now. And I know a lot of people are down on them or think they, will probably lose to the Suns. I think so. It's how's it going to go? So they got to beat Denver. Then they get the Grizzlies or the Wolves, and then it would be the Suns. So, yeah, I think there's a good chance that we see Golden State back in the finals this year. And I'll stand by that. I mean, I think it has to be them or the Suns, and I hope we get that matchup in the finals. I think it's going to be an awesome one, and we're going to see good defense against good offense. And I hope, just to own our boy Bogard, shout out to him in Discord. He's probably still in there grinding, chatting away. I hope they run a small lineup with Poole out there starting. Poole, Curry, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins. Give me that starting lineup against your boy Ayton, and they're going to light him up. So I'll leave it at that for the West.
All right. Guys, if you could, please hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton. We would appreciate it. You get to find out when all of our shows go live. And we got a bunch of shows going live today. 4:45, MLB Swing for the Fences show. Be sure to check that out. 6 o'clock, 6:30, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow they're on at 6 though, because they always like to jump on a little earlier. They'll probably be talking MLB, but they'll be focusing on the NBA, building their lineups on the premium show, giving you their thoughts. Also, we got the PGA show tonight, the Strokes Gain show with AP, Hoop, and Snyder. So don't miss out on that. It's a different kind of golf week. We got the Zurich. It's a partner event. So you got your team, and it's a little bit different this week. So be sure to check that out. The man, let's go on over to you. What's some of your thoughts on these playoffs so far? It's been fun to watch. I've been enjoying it. Curious to get some of the takes from you.
Yeah, I've been trying to enjoy it a little bit. I mean, I will say I haven't been watching as much playoff basketball just now that NBA started. But I was watching the Suns game last night or the other night. And I mean, Chris Paul, man, he just turned it on. He just flipped the switch, and I mean, that second half, man, he just went ballistic.
I don't know if you saw the man. He scored 13 points in 1:20, and he was covered by Larry Nance. And it was like he went 5 for 6. And I think he said, I heard him in his press conference, he said, all I kept hearing was Willie Green say, go under. And every time he went under, I'm just going to pull. Like, he's like, I know what Willie wants to do. And he's like, no disrespect to Willie. Like, I know him well, but it was really fun to watch Chris Paul. You're 1,000% right.
Yeah, that was awesome. Then I will say I didn't watch the games last night, but I know everybody in chat was shitting on Mike Malone and that whole debacle. So
for good reason, he's the worst.
Yeah, but no, as far as that goes, man, I don't have much on the NBA now that the playoffs here since NBA's here, but I think AP's right. The Suns and the Golden State, man, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be, I feel good about that. I didn't know who would be like the second team to really rise up in the West. Who knows? Maybe the Grizzlies show up tonight and who knows, everyone waffles and changes, but I was someone who's a Grizzlies backer, but I'm a little more worried. And I think that Warriors team looks pretty impressive, way more impressive than I thought they would look. So I kind of agree with AP that they have looked very, very good. The East will be interesting. I can't wait to see how all that plays out. Especially watch those Nets and Celtics series. I mean, those are going to be awesome. So it should be a good time, but let's talk about some of tonight's games and kind of get some takes from that. Guys, again, subscribe to the video, helps us out a ton. We would really appreciate it. Also want to mention all the stuff that we have going on over here at Run Pure Sports. I mean, as Hoop loves to say, we got all the sports for one price. I don't think the USFL 36 promo code is going on anymore. Maybe Hoop shut it down. Maybe it didn't, but you can give it a try if you are signing up. Sign up now. You get all the stuff that we have over at Run Pure. You get MMA content, F1 content, the showdown content for all the different games for NBA. I mean, we got it all over here at Run Pure Sports. Don't forget about MLB. We're also going to have an MLB show on Wednesday and Thursday in the morning, me and Draft Cheat. One of the slates is a really big one. The other one's a little bit smaller. So you get one pretty decent size slate and then one kind of one that we can talk a little bit of game theory. Maybe DC can inform us on some MLB takes that he's seen from some pitchers or maybe some hitters that he's caught some stuff on. So be sure to check that out on the morning show tomorrow and Thursday at 11 a.m. Should be a good time. Let's dive in and talk about these games, though. And the first one I want to discuss is let's talk about the Heat and the Hawks. That game starts at 7:30. AP, I'll go on over to you. I'm someone that thinks this Hawks team, I thought they had a chance to take down Miami, but without Capella, I was definitely more concerned. I didn't know what Collins would look like. I thought Collins looked okay, but not super impressed by what I saw. What's your thoughts on this game? And DFS wise, what's your thoughts on it? Because I think that this is a team that Trae Young is going to have to, he's either going to have to shoot lights out or the other players are going to have to rise up to the occasion, like Herter, Hunter, Gallinari, Bogdanovich. They're going to have some big games. And even if the game is close, I think those guys can have big games. I think you can see a Herter pay off a 4.5K price tag. You see a Bogdanovich pay off a 5.3K. I mean, those are really nice price tags. And last game was a blowout. And I also think that last game, one of the key things was, I think all the other playing games that they played kind of took a toll on them, where I think these are some really good plays to take shots on in tournaments. The only thing is I don't think they all get there. So who are some of the guys that you maybe like, or maybe you just think the Hawks are a full fade and you should load up on the Heat?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot for the Hawks, but looking at it just on the surface, Trae Young isn't going to go 1 for 12 again. Bogdanovich isn't going to go 0 for 8. So right, and then on the other side in this game, Duncan Robinson's not going to come off the bench and go 9 for 10. And you're not going to have these dudes like Gabe Vincent kind of going off as well. So I'm not saying I'm playing the Hawks here. I'm just saying I see game 2 probably going a little bit different. I do think you could make the case for Trae Young. It's tough though. This is like, it's a tough matchup. The Heat play good defense. Like Spoelstra is a smart coach. If like he knows this is a spot to where he doesn't have to run his starters out there like for max minutes. I mean, we saw a wider rotation. I think if the game starts to play out like it did in game one, we could see that same thing again. And it can be very frustrating in DFS formats. So I think for me, it's like a game, like I'm building my lineups based on like different game scripts and how I see these games playing out. If you think the Hawks can stay in it, it's all on Trae Young and Bogdanovich hitting shots, I think, and they're going to have to hit some tough shots. So 9-3 for Trae Young in a game where I think they need to win if they want. I mean, man, going down 0-2 to the Heat is tough. So I think you're going to see, a ton of effort out of guys like Trae Young and Bogdanovich off the bench. Just a tough spot. Like DeAndre Hunter, I'm never really playing or trying not to. Like he just doesn't do a ton. I mean, he's a guy that's maybe like a cash guy at 4-4, Mangone. I mean, I don't know if you have a thought on him. Like, could he get ownership? He just doesn't like do enough for me, when it comes to DFS. So
yeah, I can't get super excited about him. This matchup isn't like an easy one too for him. Like, so I prefer, if I have to pick, it's like him or Herter. Like, give me Herter. I think they have kind of similar floors, and I think the ceiling is higher for Herter as well. So I definitely lean Herter over him. The only worry I have with Bogdanovich is like his minutes can kind of get really cut poorly because like he doesn't start, right? So when you just don't start, you already kind of have that not going in your favor. He does get to go against some second unit guys, which helps a little bit and gives a bit of a bump. And 5-3 is a really nice price tag for him. And like even John Collins at 5-1, like let's say John Collins starts this game instead of Kongwu. Like AP, this is kind of like a different situation that we haven't really seen. Yes, we've seen it in the past, but Collins at 5-1, he played 21 minutes. If we know he's starting, I'm sure then the minutes will be safer. What would you do with a 5.1K John Collins? Because these are definitely price tags that I don't think you can just ignore. I mean, they're very cheap, but you can also make the argument you could play one of these guys and they only get you like 16 to 20 fantasy points. And again, at 5K and like 4-7, like you're not happy about that performance. Like you definitely want to have more. It's going to be hard to ship with that kind of, game.
Yeah, I mean, they need him out there for sure. I played him last slate. I think he was cheaper. He was in the or maybe he's right around that price. Just as a tournament play,
so it went
5-3. So yeah, he was 5% owned too, and I was fine. I had no idea what kind of run he would get. He's a guy that has upside if in the right situation. So if they're in it down the stretch, do I think he like closes? Yeah, he's a guy that could close. So it all comes down to building out game scripts. If this game stays closer, guys like Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, bam, they're going to play more minutes. If the game plays out like it did last game, they're going to lose a run. Spoelstra got his scrubs in there as quick as he could. And I think it's just strategy. The, playoffs, these series are long, and it's, he's thinking the long game right here.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be an interesting game and series. And one point that you brought up that I didn't even think of that I think is a good point is I do think the Heat could stretch out the rotation. Like you said, if not even like, obviously if the game's close, they're going to play their guys, whatever. But like, if they're kind of in cruise control and doing well in like the second and third and like Dedmon's out there playing fine, they're just going to roll with it, as crazy as that sounds. The man, let's go over to you. What's some of your thoughts on this series between the Hawks and the Heat?
I definitely think you're right. I think the shooters are where I'm going to look. If, I Red Velvet, Herter, I think that's definitely a good, good price for him. Other than that, I don't have anything else. I think a Congo at 5K, I wouldn't touch that. Now that Collins is back and he may get 20 couple minutes tonight. So yeah, a Congo at 5K, no bueno. I think it's Herter or nothing for me.
Yeah, I'm going right back to the well with Herter. Like Herter is going to be my guy. I'm definitely playing him in this spot. They're going to need a secondary ball handler to rise up. Yes, Bogdanovich has a chance to do that, but also Herter is a starter. He's cheaper too. And he's got that guard and forward eligibility. So sometimes that matters as well, especially when deciding between like a Hunter and a Herter. Like if you're making that decision and let's say you need a shooting guard, well, I think I just go Herter instead. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I'll leave all the Max Struss for K Fallick in our Discord chat. He loves to talk about his boy Max Struss, so we'll see what he thinks about that. be an interesting series. I think Kyle Lowry's price, we didn't talk too much about him, but 6'3" isn't bad. And then I'm curious to see if people go back to PJ Tucker after his big game at 3.9K, because we are a little bit starved for value on these playoff slates, which I think makes it really interesting, because sometimes those value plays like Maxi Kleber go for 40, and sometimes they're like Jay Crowder and they go for 5. So it's really intriguing to see how those high-owned guys do. Let's shift on over to this next game. Let's talk about the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies. 240.5 total, which totals don't mean everything, but this game will play up in pace. It's definitely going to be an interesting one. My only concern is I think both these teams kind of like to play a little deeper than I would like for a playoff series. Like when this hits game 6 and game 7 and they've kind of figured out where they're at, or game 5, I think you'll see some tighter rotations. But game 2, I still think there's a little bit of feel out going on. I'm curious to see what you guys think the Grizzlies counter with, because I don't think the Grizzlies are going to do the exact same thing they did last time. AP, I'll go on over to you. What's your thoughts on how the Grizzlies kind of attacked this game?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of on the Wolves in this series. You know, I was on them to begin with. I thought the Grizzlies were a little overrated. I was getting kind of Jazz vibes, you know, regular season heroes. And come playoff time, like I don't know. We're starting to see it too. I do. So I agree with you. Wider rotations here, which can be frustrating, but we did see it. Like Ja Morant played they're almost 36 minutes, 35. We're probably gonna see that 40-minute upside, like we saw all last year in the playoffs. I think Taylor Jenkins is going to go back to his star, and he was excellent in game 1. And I think it's all last year when they played the Jazz, Ja Morant was playing 40 minutes a game. I love that we saw 35 out of him. I think we see closer to 40 tonight, and I think he's one of the better plays on the slate. On the other side, we saw monster games out of Edwards and Towns. I do think this is a better matchup for Towns than the one that they had in the play-in game, just to get to go against some bigs, you know, and Steven Adams here on the Grizzlies side. And obviously we saw them, you know, with Towns going off, they switched to Brandon Clark, who was far more effective. I can't remember who called that, but someone had a great call on one of the shows on the Up to Lock shows with Brandon Clark. But yeah, over here it's Edwards, it's Towns, and then you have D'Lo. D'Lo's the guy that odd man out, had a bad game. People are probably going to move off of him. They're going to go to Edwards and Towns. So honestly, in tournaments, go back to D'Lo. Like any of these 3 guys can go off. You know, that's the thing about the Wolves that can be very frustrating. The only guy I'm probably not playing ever, and I just don't like playing him, is Pat Bev. He just never does it for me, and he's typically overowned. But yeah, I think what you do is you focus on the guys you like here. For me, it's Ja Morant. I'm going to over project him. I do like Clark off the bench, assuming they go back to him. I just think it was probably the right move, but you never know. Steven Adams was the guy I'm off. I think I'm going to continue to be off of him. Jaren Jackson, guys constantly in foul trouble. Like, man, they if anyone, okay, so maybe the tournament play is Jaren Jackson. They need a big game out of him. Like, he's been underperforming all season long. The guy can't stay out of foul trouble. Very talented and has a ton of upside when he does stay out of foul trouble. So I'm going to say everyone's going to go to Brandon Clark. I think the play in tournaments would be a guy like Jaren Jackson, run it back with D'Lo, and then somehow get like Ja Morant in there or something. But this game, high total, I do think it matters because I don't like the first game that much, and I don't like the later game as much. So you're going to have to mix and match some of these guys that come off the bench, and I see one of them being a piece that gets it done. I just don't know who that piece is yet.
If I was the Grizzlies, I would tell Jaren Jackson, the first 4 minutes of the game, Jaren, do not foul anyone. Like, I don't care if they get a bucket. Do not foul. And then what I would say is, I'd pull him off at like the 4 or 5 minute mark. I'd let the Steven Adams big man thing happen. And then that's where I'd start kind of making Jaren Jackson play the 5. And then I'd want to close with him at the 5. I think that's what's going to unlock making things work. I don't know if the Adams thing is going to be able to survive throughout the series enough. I think they can use him, but I think it could cause some problems against Cat with the high pick and roll that they can run and then just do the pick and pop. So that's kind of some of my thought process on that. I like your thoughts on Jaren Jackson. Just he's got to stay out of foul trouble. If that was the case, they did go the small ball lineups, and I do think the Timberwolves are trying to play their more small ball lineup as well. I think they're going to move off Vanderbilt for McDaniels. I felt that way last game, and this is like trusting your gut. I should have trusted my gut on it, and I didn't. I played Vanderbilt instead. I mean, it was one of those things I thought about, and I was like, maybe I'll do this. And I wish I would have gave it a little bit more of a look. It's definitely something I thought about, and I wish I would have looked at those lineups because I definitely remember the Vanderbilt slate where I played them, and I did not like my teams. Sometimes just build a bad team and you just move on from that day and you go on to another one. So I felt like that was the case. No doubt I will be looking at some McDaniels teams today because I do think he is the guy that will get the run. You can make the case Beasley could be a guy that gets a little bit more run. And I agree. I think he can, but I do worry about sometimes playing jump shooters on the road. I think about that a little bit, especially after he had a big game. I don't know if I want to jump on now. Maybe I'll wait like a game or two to jump back on Beasley. I think McDaniels is the guy that I prefer. I like the D-Russ call from UAP. I think he's a good guy to get back on that can have a big game. I like Beverly a little more than you. I feel like it's because that's the cash game guy in me. The floor ceiling combo just feels pretty good. And then the Grizzlies side, I think Dylan Brooks still has a pretty good price tag. I think Desmond Bane price has gotten a little bit better at 6'4". The man, let's go over to you. What's some of your thoughts here on this Timberwolves and Grizzlies prices? Because it's a pretty good game to attack with a 240 total.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is the Bane price. Like if you're going to go between Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane, I know they're different positions, but if you just tinker with your lineups and you see what fits, I know it's different positions, but Desmond Bane at 6'4" definitely sticks out to me. And then the Jaren Jackson thing, man, he's just tilting, man. It's you'll have one of these nights where he'll go out and shoot the lights out, and then the other night he'll foul, he'll get 2-3 fouls in 3 minutes, and But I think Desmond Bane, definitely I'm eyeing him. The Pat Bev price too high for him. The dude thinks he won the championship the other night, so he was amped the other night. But yeah, that's it for me. It's just I like Bane's price a lot.
Yeah, I agree on the Bane price. That's definitely one that sticks out as like a really good price tag that I think I want to get on. I mean, he was 7-1 the other day, right? And now he's down to 6'4", taking advantage of those price tags seems like a smart idea. Bane's a guy, he likes to play on a chip with a chip on his shoulder too, right? He always talks about how he got snubbed in the draft. Like, of course, they hear all the chatter. I expect the Grizzlies to bounce back, and they got to win this game, right? I mean, you cannot go down 2-0. I mean, this is a game I expect the Grizzlies to win. If they don't win, this team is in deep, deep trouble. It's going to be very hard for them to come back. So it should be a fun series. I'm excited to watch it. Ja, we didn't talk too much about him. He is 9'8". So like, this is one of those like slates where we have like Jokic and Embiid on like the, together on slates where you don't have them separate, where there's not a lot of guys to pay for, right? You have KD and Giannis not on this slate. So he's definitely someone I think you can pay for if he is going to happen to be contrarian. It could be interesting, but I see a lot of people living in the mid tier today. It seems like, I think that's the route a lot of people will go. I don't think they're going to pay all the way up for a 9.8K Ja Morant. I think they're going to go down for some of these other guys that we have talked about. And, I think there's another guy that we haven't talked about in this next game that's going to be really interesting. If you guys could, please subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton. Also, if you haven't signed up at Run Pure Sports, we have core plays. If you're someone that's new here, haven't checked out our site, we have our guys, Big T, we got AP, Hoop, JSU, myself, Tambo, all the guys, DC, Gary, they give out core plays all the time. So, be sure to check that out. We got like 4 per sport every single day. You can get in that Discord chat, talk with us as well. We have sports going on all the time. Kurt keeps telling me, the Euro League is starting up in like an hour and like 20 minutes. So if you want to try out some Euro League, get in on that. They've been absolutely crushing it over there. Kurt's got a core up, so be sure to check that out. But let's dive in and talk about this next game. Let's talk Pelicans. Let's talk Suns. And I want to talk about Chris Paul because, man, he's been awesome to watch. 8.3K. The other day he was 7.6. The price, it's still too cheap. I still want to play him. If Chris Paul was like 9K, I think I'd play him here in this spot. So I'm in on Chris Paul. I might even jump back on Jay Crowder, even after the 5 fantasy point performance. I'm sure the ownership will be down on that. I'm curious to see what that is. Let's go to you first, the man. Reason I want to go to you is you talk about ownership, right? Ownership is important to you. 50% Jay Crowder sounds like something I probably shouldn't have been interested in, but I was. I'm assuming it's going to be lower here. Do you think that Jay Crowder ownership is lower? And you talked about Chris Paul. So what are you doing with him? Are you just jumping back on Chris Paul in this spot?
Yeah, I think Chris Paul definitely playoff Chris Paul, man. You can't not fade that. I will say the rotation for the Pelicans the last game, I definitely, it was weird. It was Devontae Graham came in at like, I don't know, the 3-minute mark, and I expected to be Alvarado. So I'm not sure if they're going to keep on doing that. If they do, I mean, it's a reach, but Alvarado, I don't know. He closed that whole, second quarter. So it's something to monitor as far as, what he's going to do with that rotation. But
the man, let me call this out because I don't know if you saw it. And it's not a big thing to note, but I think it's noteworthy. Alvarado did he kind of hurt his ankle at one point in the game. But it wasn't really reported. He still kept playing on it. Now, of course, you know how ankles can work, right? It could be fine, and then it swells up the next day. So if the Graham thing worked like you're talking about, I wouldn't be shocked if they went to it. I do think the Pelicans need to figure out something to do differently. They can't just do what they were doing, if that makes sense. So I agree with everything you're saying. There is going to be one of these bench guys that rises up, and we just got to figure out which one it is.
But and back to the Crowder thing too, though, is that you have Cam Johnson, you got Jay Crowder at the same price. I would imagine. I mean, I think Cam Johnson's probably going to be the higher of the two owned because of the Jay Crowder 1-1-1 performance last time. But it's something to think about whether you want to go back and forth between that. But I like Crowder.
I like him too. I will say the one thing with Crowder, he can do it again. I can't remember which series it was. It was no, I do remember the series, but I forgot when it was. They were playing the Lakers, and I think Jay Crowder had 3 straight games where he was absolute trash. Kept missing threes. He was I think he was a combined 1 for 18 from 3 and over the course of the 3 games. And game 4, I said, it's going to bounce my way, variance, blah, blah, blah. And I played him. I was I'm not getting off. I don't care if he misses 0 for 6 again. I'm just going to keep playing him. So Jay Crowder can do that. So just be ready for a possible bad game again, but the ownership should be down. And that's where we need to take advantage of it. If he was 50%, last slate, he should be someone to consider here. Again, one more thing I want to talk about before I go to AP, the man. Bridges is going to be on McCollum most of the time. They put Jay Crowder on Ingram, and then they blitz the double over to Ingram at times. That left a lot of passes going to Valanciunas. And Valanciunas, he dominated on the boards. He also got open shots that he was just taking, because why wouldn't you take an open shot? I mean, it just seems like the right move. And Valanciunas, he will go up with it. I remember seeing him go up with 4 guys on him. He does not care. He will put that ball right back up. I think at 7.5K, Valanciunas is a phenomenal play to go to. What's your thoughts on him? Because I do worry at times with what can happen is I think Valanciunas could get ran off the court because they want to try something different. They could just say, hey, this Valanciunas thing isn't working. Let's try something completely different. But maybe that's in game 3. I don't think it's in this game because of how badly Larry Nance got destroyed by Chris Paul. What's your thoughts on Valanciunas? Because I think at 7.5, he's an amazing tournament play.
Okay, that price is too good to be true. I'm pretty sure it was Nance that last game. Who tried to contest him? Did he try to dunk over somebody in that game, late in that game where he just absolutely destroyed them down? Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but I think they're still in the experimental phase with him. And I think he's still an incredible play tonight again at that price.
Yep, definitely agree with you on that. AP, what's your thoughts on this series and this game for DFS? 221.5 total. Got a lot of good options. I mean, we haven't talked about Ayton. I'm sure Bogart's in the chat somewhere just stroking him. We got Booker, who we haven't really discussed either, at 8.8K, who could be a good play. And I'm curious to get your take on what the Pelicans do to counter. Do they just do the same thing, or do they pull someone off this bench to kind of try and help them out?
Yeah, I mean, the more I look at it, and I hadn't fully looked at pricing yet, because I initially said I didn't like this game and didn't like the first game. But honestly, I feel like this is a slate to where it's all about building scripts, because I could see making the case to just stack up CP and Devin Booker and Ayton, Joval, and maybe McCollum if you can make it work for kind of a mid-tier build. They're all priced kind of in that range to where it could potentially work. And in the right game script where the Pelicans fight and come back or keep it within striking distance, within 20 points, you're going to see big minutes out of the Suns' main pieces here. We saw it last game, CP, Booker, and, those two played a ton of minutes here. I think the Pelicans have been good on wings. We saw that against, Crowder, obviously 0 for 4. Bridges, I think it was 0 for 3. I even think Cam Johnson struggled a little bit. He's been a key piece off the bench. So that's, in hindsight, Jay Crowder, that play, maybe not so good of a play, hindsight. He was 4-2. I put him at 20 and he was hitting so many builds. So I think here I could see it playing out somewhat similar. What I like in McCollum, sure, you could go, since Ingram had a bad game, you could go you could go back to him. But you got to, like, McCollum's taking 20+ shots a game. Like, the upside is going to be there. And I love seeing that. And he's like one of the only guys that they have that can really produce. And then Joval, I do like this matchup for him. I mean, this guy had some of the most, like the biggest upside on the slate, the last slate that they were on. 25 rebounds, took 21 field goal attempts, and a monster usage rate. So I'm really curious to see where ownership is at on him, because he seems like a guy that people don't typically like to play. So for me, like, I don't know, maybe we see the Grizzlies really put it on the T-Wolves here, and maybe that game ends up being a disaster, like a blowout. We see that at times in these game twos, sometimes game threes, especially with the Wolves getting that first punch in, that haymaker punch. I would not be surprised if the Grizzlies came back tonight. Even though I like the Wolves, I do like them for the series. I would not be surprised if they came and blew them out. Just like tomorrow, the Celtics-Nets game. I'm high on the Nets, but I would not be surprised, and I'm kind of worried about that game tomorrow. Like, I could see the Celtics pouring it on them. So it's just, these things happen in these series, and that's why I like building out these scripts. So the more I think about it and the more I play around with it, you can make the case. Maybe the Suns, though, blow out the Pelicans. We could definitely see that, which lands us into like kind of an awkward spot in the slate where you get like 3 games that end up not being so good, and it comes down to being like a raw points type of slate, which I think is going to lead people towards that mid-tier build today. But like, if I were to like stack one game up, and it would probably be this late one because of the rotations and usage, all of that. We know CJ McCollum, he's going to get 20+ shots up. Joval, we assume if he stays out of foul trouble, the rotation is going to be similar. The opportunities are going to be similar because they're going to have Ayton in there. We know if Joval is in there doing what he does, we know Ayton's going to have to play. So we know that opportunity is going to be there. And we know the production on the Sun side is going to come from CP and Devin Booker. And they're all priced pretty favorably. So while the unknowns in some of these other games, the Wolves, it's the big 3. Like, which big 3 is it going to be this time? In game 1, Cat sucked, and it was D'Lo and Edwards. In their first playing game. In the second game, it was Towns. He had a big one, and Edwards had a big one. It was D'Lo that was out. So in this tonight, it could be a completely different story. So I'm going on the knowns tonight, and I trust Ja Morant's rotation in minutes. I think he sees 40+. And assuming this late game stays close, I trust the guys that I mentioned. So that's probably going to be where my path is tonight.
Yep, should be an awesome slate. We got AP. He'll have his heat chart up, obviously breaking down which players he's highest on, which one he's lowest on. So be sure to check that out. The cash chart will obviously have stuff there, the core plays, the playbook, and the up the lock show. You don't want to miss out on that. We'll have tons of MLB content. If you guys could subscribe to the channel, check out all the content we have. Like I said, we got tons coming on today. We got the MLB Swing for the Fences show. Then we got the premium show at 6:30. And then we got the Strokes Gain show, the PGA show. AP, maybe people aren't into golf. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about it? It's you, Hoop, and Snyder. And you guys break down the event, right? Snyder goes through, gives you a little course preview, and then you kind of talk about it. So let the people know about that show tonight here on the YouTube channel at 8:30.
Yeah, every Tuesday, 8:30, we're me, Hoop, and Snyder. We're breaking down the PGA slate for the week. Snyder gives a great course breakdown. Then we go tier by tier, and we just talk about guys that we like and guys that we don't like. And we're pretty transparent on that show, and it's usually a good time.
Yeah, it's a good time. You grab yourself a drink, hang out with AP and the guys, and talk some golf. The man, final thoughts kind of before we get on out of here. Maybe I know AP wanted you to share, your sweat story with the baby. I don't know if you want to actually share that, but give some final thoughts here before kind of we get on out of here.
All right. So for DFS wise, I will say I haven't built some lineups yet, but I definitely think that the double center tonight, little Ayton Valanciunas combo could be a little interesting. Haven't started to build anything yet, but I think that's definitely something to note. As far as the story goes, so baby is probably about a week old, give or take. He's been great. He's very easy, very simple. But that night he was fussing like crazy. I think it was just because my wife ate something that didn't sit right with him, and he was losing it all night. So I was probably about midnight-ish. I had to go out and try to find some baby Tylenol while these games were going on, sweating this $1 million, and didn't find Tylenol. Got home. I was literally driving in the truck back to the house when the games were final. And so that's where I was, trying to find him some baby Tylenol.
He's sweating the $1 million on the phone while getting baby Tylenol. Now, that's when you just somehow fire up like Instacart or one of those like services and make them come to you with it or something. Just find it online.
So I'm from Maryland, and literally no place in probably a 20-mile radius was 24-hour stores. Literally nowhere. It was frustrating.
Oh, geez, that's awful. Well, hopefully those $1 million was able to get you some baby Tylenol, and, congrats on the kid. Obviously that's a lot of fun for you. Happy to have you on. Also, one more thing, the man, I saw in the chat earlier, people want a holiday core from the man. So you might get some requests now. This is on you for saying that you're,
I want that
the
core
holiday
too.
shipper.
Yeah.
I want that core too. I'm going to hold you to it. Yeah. Every holiday.
Right, well, what's the next holiday coming up? Memorial Day? Is that what it is coming up?
Well, I mean, it depends what holiday. Mother's Day. I think Father's Day, like Mother's Day, I don't know if a Mother's Day one makes sense. A Father's Day one, I think, makes sense. I think,
yeah.
Father's Day and then 4th of July core for baseball. A little 4th of July stack wouldn't be bad. Memorial Day is coming up too. I guess that one as well, you said. So yeah, we could maybe do one for that. Maybe there's there's always good Monday baseball games. So you might get some requests in the chat. That's all I'm saying. So be ready, be a little prepared, because people want the man holiday core, and so does AP. So we'll have to see if we can get that. AP, final thoughts kind of before we get on out of here.
Yeah, should be a fun 3-game slate tonight. These slates are always a ton of fun. Not the matchups I really like, but sometimes that can make it a little bit more fun. So don't be afraid to get different. Try to read the industry, see where people are going to be at, and try to make sharp pivots to get just a little bit different. I think that is going to continue to be the key.
Yeah, I haven't looked at projections much. I don't know what everyone's doing, but one guy like Kayvon Herter, definitely someone I think I'm going to try and get some exposure to tonight. And I don't know if I'll do it for sure, but I like going to McDaniels. Definitely something I want to dive in a little bit deeper on. And if I just play those two, I feel like already, I mean, my team is a little weird and different and people aren't really getting on that. So that's kind of my start, at least, looking at stuff without like just first look. Easy, quick look, no projections or anything like that. But you obviously got the Up the Lock show to help you out with NBA. You got the Swing for the Fences show to help you out as well. But that is going to wrap it up. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks for breaking down your lineup, the man. Happy to have you on. Hopefully we can have you on again. Hopefully you win $1 million again soon as well. But we are going to get on out of here. For me, AP, and the man, we will see you guys later.